Thank you very much for joining me, Congressman Krishnamoorthi. The question here, Murthy ji, is, born in New Delhi, you're a congressman. Indians are, people of Indian origin in America are taking the Congress by storm, the politics in America by storm. How do you look at these elections where Kamala Harris is taking on former President Donald Trump, and she has some Indian connection as well? How are you looking at these elections?
Well, I'm excited. We have Kamala Devi Harris, whose mother was born in India and who raised her. So I consider her a Desi. And then, of course, we have 5 Indian Americans in Congress. I affectionately call us the Samosa Caucus. Okay. And we need more samosas, and we need more of Congress to look like America. And as you know, Indian Americans are doing very well in the United States. And so it's only time that they get more involved in the civic life of this country.
How do you look at the campaign as it is running currently? We've just seen 2 attempts on former President Donald Trump's life, and then we've seen the debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, where polls suggest that she's picked up a lead of sorts. Where do you think this campaign and this election is going?
I think it's very close. I think that this is an election that will come down to the results of just a few states. Out of 50, there are about 7 that are in play, so to speak, that are very close, and that will help determine who the next president is. I myself am standing for election just like Kamala Harris, and so I'm also seeking a contract extension, so to speak, for my 5th term, and so it's a busy time.
It's a busy time, and how much of India do you think reflects in American policies in the Samosa Caucus? How much is the Samosa Caucus able to push, the Indian concerns right here in the U.S.?
Well, I think Indian American concerns reflect, broader concerns. So what do I mean by that? We need to have a good legal immigration system. We need to have a good public education system, since many of us were raised in families that sent their children to public schools. And then finally, we need to have a country where entrepreneurship, the free enterprise system, our capitalist system is allowed to flourish, even at the same time that we give everyone an opportunity to get on the up escalator of the economy.
Do you speak a bit of Hindi? Do you remember a little bit of Hindi?
Jaldi karo.
Jaldi karo,
yes,
okay.
That's
and what would you say about Prime Minister Modi?
I think that he is the Prime Minister of the world's largest democracy. And we saw the majesty of democracy on display in the recent elections. And I think that, Prime Minister Modi is in a situation where, basically he's going to be working with Joe Biden, but also the leaders of Australia and Japan as part of the Quad in setting the international rules of the road with regard to economics, with regard to national security and military matters, and also with regard to people-to-people ties, making sure that we can have more exchanges of everyone from artists to journalists like yourself, and of course, immigrants.
Vice President Kamala Harris has had a few views that don't quite match up or sync with what the present Modi government really thinks about, especially on Kashmir. Do you think that's going to impact relations going forward, if she wins these elections?
No, I don't think so. I think Kamala Harris is a Desi. And we Desis...
Desi girl.
Yeah, she's a Desi girl. And she has I know her well. She has a very soft corner for Desis. She has a very soft corner for India. She's been to India many times with her mother. And many of her relatives in the U.S. are Indian American. So given all those ties, I feel very, very confident that the relationship will grow to new heights, will cover more subjects, and will continue to strengthen over time.
You just had an opportunity to meet with our leader of opposition, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who visited the Congress. You were part of a meeting where Ilhan Omar was also present, and there was a furor, controversy back home in India. What did you think about the meeting and the interaction with Mr. Gandhi?
Look, I think as a member of our government, it's my duty to meet with everybody. I, of course, have had various meetings with Prime Minister Modi and, of course, the Indian government currently in place. I think I was more in listening mode. I wanted to hear what Mr. Gandhi and other members of Parliament have to say. But this is a common exchange of views. You remember, India is a democracy, just like the United States, and so we encourage everyone to participate, and sometimes they don't always agree. But as long as we can agree to agree agreeably, then, or disagree agreeably, then we are in a better position than some other regimes, some other governments in the world where they don't tolerate dissent.
And what was the big takeaway from that meeting with Mr. Gandhi? Did you agree agreeably or disagree agreeably? How would you put that?
I prefer not to get into that because it was somewhat of a off-the-record meeting. But suffice it to say that not everyone agreed on everything.
Okay.
And so I think that given that, that's fine. That's perfectly fine.
And Ilhan Omar and her position on Kashmir, again, the fact that she's more with Pakistan than with India, and in India it's an either-or kind of a situation, at least amongst the people of India, that if you're with Pakistan, you can't be with India. Did you think that interaction a little odd?
I don't know. I was made in India, and so I obviously have a very soft corner for the motherland, so to speak. America is the place where I represent 750,000 people, and I owe my first allegiance. But India is very close to my heart. My belief, and I have many Pakistani American constituents as well, and I think what unites Indian Americans and Pakistani Americans and others in my district is a hope that in our country, in the United States, we can all unite around common challenges that face our families, even as we might root for different teams, in the World Cup. Right? I mean,
True.
There's a huge cricket match in Long Island, I believe, and we had so many people from my district fly to New York City to watch, and they wore their respective jerseys, right? But under it all, they were Americans. And I think that is...
that simplifies things quite a lot.
Yeah.
In India and back home in Pakistan, it's not so simple, really. But let me... do you remember, other than Jaldi Karo, if I were to say, we have a huge Hindi audience in our Hindi channel. Anything that you would want to tell Indians in Hindi?
I don't, if I start speaking Hindi, you'll say, please speak English. So
kuch thoda bahut.
you know what, I'll just say, kya ho gaya. And, that's the one thing that I always remember my mother would ask when we went shopping. And, I think that it's just very interesting to recount our time in Delhi, where my mother and father would constantly be speaking Hindi mixed with Tamil, mixed with English.
Okay.
As I grew up.
Amazing. And that's what national integration back home in India really looks like. All cultures, all
Right.
ethos, in a nice little mixture.
Right.
And, a little bit of Punjabi and Tamil is great.
Right.
But let me ask you, do you think there's going to be another debate between Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris?
I don't think so. I don't think Donald Trump will want that. I think that he was thoroughly defeated in the last debate, and I think that he doesn't want to have to go through that again.
And do you think, the poll leads will consolidate into real gains for Kamala Harris, make her win these elections?
I think so. I think she's got the momentum. I think she has the energy, the enthusiasm. She's a fresh face, relatively speaking, for the presidency. And she represents, you know, the future. And unfortunately, Donald Trump keeps talking about the past, keeps relitigating old grievances and going over old disputes. That's not where America wants to go.
And do you think there's a making of a sympathy, you know, vote for him or a sympathy atmosphere for him?
Certainly among certain people, I would think. But at the same time, I think that there's a desperate hope for a future where we can unify as a country. He is viewed as a slightly divisive figure. And as an Indian American, I feel very strongly, you know, I'm a Hindu, I'm an Indian American, I'm of a different ethnicity, I'm an immigrant. I want to live in a country where everybody is celebrated regardless of who you are or where you come from or the color of your skin. And I think Kamala Harris represents that future.
Let me just, in the end, ask you one question. The recent attack on the BAPS temple, number one, and number two, the position of Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. You know, these two questions worry people back home. On Pannu, do you think it's a deal breaker between India and the way United States looks at the entire issue?
Honestly, I don't know. And I think that my hope is that our relationship is so strong that we will weather any kind of disagreements. With regard to the first issue, that was appalling. The attack on the BAPS Mandir in Melville, New York was appalling, and unfortunately it follows a string of other attacks. So we have to stand in opposition to hatred of any kind, whether it's directed at Hindus or anybody. And so I'm glad to see so many of my colleagues join with me in condemning that attack.
When you see Modi, what do you think? You know, Modi and India, how would you define that?
Well, look, I think that he's now beginning his third term, and that's unprecedented in recent times. And you have to hope that the leadership of India always does well, because just as we would hope that the President of the United States does well, we want the people of India to flourish. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.